welcome back to Life Enrichment with Hank Ballinger. We are going to do a three-part series on mini money, medium money, and mega money, and showing the difference between the three. Mini money is kind of exactly what it says. People have very little money, and maybe they start out the month with just a little bit of money, and they end the month with just a little money, or they may start the month before their paycheck comes with no money, and then end the month with no money. And that does seem to be a problem in America, oddly enough. And you've probably heard the statistic that about 61% of the people in America live paycheck to paycheck. They have to get to that next paycheck to make it. They have no money saved over. They have no savings. And 45% of people who make $100,000 or more live paycheck to paycheck. In America, that's kind of odd. So we want to talk a little bit about that today. Before we get into that, we'd like to say thanks for everyone who watches the channel. If you can, like and subscribe and tell others. Tell on Facebook. We would really appreciate it. Again, our goal is to help each and every person be able to get out of the rat race. The rat race is tough. Working for the man is tough. So that's our goal, is to help the average person, the common person, be able to get out of that and be able to control their life and do the things they want to do, build wealth, and do the things they want to do in their life. Okay, mini money, a small amount of money. Now, ironically enough, everybody has income and everybody has expense. So you're going to see this little diagram on all three videos. Everybody has income. I don't care how poor you are or how wealthy you are. Everybody has income and everybody has expense. That's just the nature of the game. Now, let me ask this question. How much at the end of the month or the end of the week, whenever you get paid, how much do you actually save? That is a key. That's a major key. You need to get really, really disciplined at saving, not spending everything. Don't think, well, I've got $10, so I'm going to go to McDonald's and buy about $10 worth of stuff and eat. Or if I have $100 left at the end of the month, well, that means that's a big night out on the town. Don't think like that. You need to purposefully tell your money where to go, or you're going to wonder where it went. You've got to be the master. Money makes a good slave, but it makes a terrible master. It really does. So you've got to get good at being very direct, very on purpose with your money. How much do you save? You need to get to have a budget. If you're one of those people who have mini money, very small amount of money at the beginning of the month, very small, or none at the end, get good at a budget. And that's the B word. Nobody likes the B word. Nobody likes a budget. Nobody wants to be on a budget. But you really need to get on a budget to get yourself out of that everyday grind of working for the man, just always being held down and just suppressed by the system. And it's not really the system, it's the fact that we many times spend too much and we won't save. So let's look at this. If we can't save, then we're not spending less than we make. It seems like it would be a pretty easy concept. If this is how much money you make a week or a month, then that's the most you can spend. Or somewhere down here, you need to save. So your spending needs to be down here, and there needs to be some amount, some delta in there between what you spend and what you make. You need to make more than you spend. Oddly enough, now when you take out the 1% in America and some of the higher ups, and this is not a a specific statistic, but there are a lot of people in America that spend about 102 to 104% of their check per month. You see what that means? If they make $1,000, they're spending 1,020 or 1,040. You can't do that and keep on. Eventually that catches up to you. And you may put it on a credit card, and that's how they live on more than they make. It's on a credit card, and it seems easy. It seems very, very easy. It's just 20 bucks. Oh, it's just a night out on the town. And besides, we really want to see this movie, and besides, it's our anniversary. We're going to go out and eat. Besides, it's just this little vacation. It's always just. You put the word just in front of anything, and you can do it. You can buy more. You can do more. But that just at the end of the month actually starts adding up, especially when you're living on 102, 104% of your income per month. It's 102, and then the next month it's 2% more, and the next month it's 2% more. Well, at the end of the year, it's 24% more than you made. So you've got to think about that. Spend less than you make. Generally, the poor spend everything they make per month. Now, I'm not just saying people that have low income. There are people that have very high income spend everything they make. They're still poor. It's a poor mentality. If you spend everything you make, doesn't matter how much you make. If you're making $500,000 a month and you're spending $510,000 a month, you are poor. You're going in the negative every month. And even if you're breaking even, you're poor. You're not saving. Get good at saving, putting some back. You remember what Grandma always used to say? Put it back for a rainy day. Put it in the cookie jar, something of that nature. They always had money, didn't they? That's the concept. The middle class. We're going to talk more about this in the next video. The middle class are generally those who save. Now, they save in SEPs, IRAs, Roths, 401s, 403s. There are several vehicles that they can use to save money. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you will never build serious wealth saving. Okay, we're going to talk more about that in the next video, so we won't dwell on it here. But the middle class save, they have a lot of expenses, but very few assets. A lot of expenses and a lot of liabilities. The next video, we're going to really get into that. Show why that will kill you. That will kill you. The wealthy, they have a lot of assets. Things that bring in money more, and generally, if their income is here, they're spending here. And as this goes up, this don't go up as much. So they're constantly making more and more. And a lot of people get upset about the wealthy and say, oh, those greedy people, they have a lot more than they need and more than they could ever spend. That's the reason. They get really good at saving. They always spend less than they make, and they keep making more and more. And so their income goes up, but their expenses goes up slower. And eventually they get to where they have a really nice lifestyle, but they're still not spending everything they make. That's the key. They're good at saving. And if you get good at that now, later when you're making really big money and you're good at saving because you become very disciplined, you will do very well. And then when the car tears up, you know what? You go get it fixed. When the washing machine tears up, you get a new one or you get it fixed. If you want to go on that vacation, you will go on that vacation, but you won't miss the money because it's not putting you in debt. You have the money. You got to get good at being able to save and prepare for those things. The wealthy have a lot of assets. Now, here's something we want to talk about, and we're going to talk about this in all three videos. What is equity? Equity. What is that? So let's say you have a house and you buy this house, and let's say it's a $100,000 house. I love using good round numbers. So let's say you buy a $100,000 house. The bank says, well, we'll go 80. That means you got to come up with 20,000. So you put 20,000 down payment. The bank goes 80,000. So they give the seller 80,000. You give the seller 20,000. So now you have an $100,000 house, but you already have $20,000 worth of equity because you paid 20% down. The bank only went 80. So you have a debt with the bank. It's called a debt service. You have a debt service with the bank that you're making payments on each month. So you have 20,000 worth of equity. Now, each month when you get that bill from the bank, and you know what? They don't really forget about that very often. Every month you got to make that payment. So as you make that payment, some of that payment goes to principal, and some of that payment, and especially at the first, a whole lot of it goes to interest. So you're paying them back, and it's front-loaded, interest heavy. You're paying more interest than you are principal. So as you're paying this payment, but the principal part comes off of that 80,000, and if you pay 100, well, now you have 79,900. Then if next month you pay 150, it's 79,750. So that principal goes down each month as you make that principal payment. So you have more equity. Now, if you fix your house up and you make it nicer, maybe you add on a room, you fix something, so you raise the value, now you have even more equity. Now, the good thing about that equity is you can use it later as you build wealth and you build that equity up. You can eventually use that equity out of your house and equity out of your assets to buy other assets. We'll talk more about that later, but equity, this word right here, really understand how you can use equity to build wealth. That's how rich people do it. When they buy assets and they make those payments each month. Now really, let's say you buy a bunch of apartments. Those tenants that are paying you, in essence, are paying. Now I know Dave Ramsey and some others would say, well, you're making the payment, so it's you. That's true, but if you hadn't bought that asset, those tenants wouldn't be giving you the money. The fact that you bought the asset, tenants give you the money, you're making the debt service to the bank, so you're getting equity every month on that property. The tenants are giving you the money and you're paying it. Now, let's say you bought a restaurant. All the people that come through and buy goods at that restaurant or food, they're paying you and you're making the payment on that restaurant and you're building equity. Now, let's say you bought a hotel, and as you have people come and stay at your hotel, you're building equity in that every time you make a payment to the bank. So all these businesses you have, you're building equity in, and eventually, look what you can do with that. Let's say you had $100,000 worth of usable equity, meaning a bank would let you take out a loan on that property. You could take that equity out and buy another property. Look what you've done. You've taken equity out, $100,000 from this business, and you bought this business over here, but you didn't lose the $100,000. You now have an additional business, and you didn't even lose the money. You took it from this one, bought this one, and you still have the equity in a different property. Yeah, you have more debt service on this one, but you still have the equity. Now you have two businesses building equity. So you're building it twice as fast. And as those two buildings build equity and they get more, you fix them up, you get more income, whether it's by a hotel, you're charging more per night. Maybe it's an Airbnb and you're charging people by the night. Maybe it's an apartment, you're charging them by the month. If it's a restaurant, you're charging them to eat. Whatever, you fix that property up, you're building it up and the value goes up, and when you pay the debt service each month, so the delta between the two is your equity. And every time, if you build equity in one property, you can buy another one. Now you have two. Build equity in the two, you can take equity out of those and buy two more. Then you build equity in the four, you can take money out of those and buy four more. Then you can take money out of the 8 and buy 8 more. Then you can take money out of the 16 and buy 16 more. There is no end to that because you get good at saving. Equity will build your wealth. It is a very, very good way to build wealth. Now, can everyone save money? Very good question. If we tell you over here you need to save, you know, I hear stories all the time. People say, oh, I just can't save money. I just can't do it. By the time I pay my bills, by the time I do this, by the time I do that, I just can't. There's just not enough time. Just not enough money at the end of the month. I've got more month than I do money. That happens. But here's the thing. You could get another job. If that's going to get you out of that grind that's keeping you down, that the man is holding you down because you just can't get ahead, you may have to get another job. Maybe drive Uber, or maybe get a job at delivering pizza. Whatever you have to do, somewhere or another, get enough money coming in that you have more than your bills or your cost of living, to where you can save, and eventually you will be able to buy some real estate that will then give you some additional income. And that's passive income. Because if it's apartments and you have a team around you, eventually you can get a team. It takes a few years. But once you have a team, then you're really kind of going on cruise control. You know, if you have a office staff and you have a field staff, it's kind of going on cruise control, and people are working for you, and people are paying, the renters are paying, and the people are working for you. You're not really doing a lot except buying and selling real estate. But that's the point. That's the point you want to get to. It's a goal. Set that goal and push hard to get to that goal. Now, if you are into mini money, what do? Do you rent or buy? Well, that's a tough question. Either one, you make sure. Doesn't matter if you decide to rent an apartment or if you're going to buy a house. You buy or rent one that is very small and stays within your, here comes the B word again, your budget. It doesn't matter if you rent or buy, but you make sure that you are within your budget. You have got to learn to save, because by saving and getting into real estate, equity will make you wealthy. Now, house hacking. Let's say you buy a house. You buy a house. Now, you could do what's called house hacking, meaning you could rent out a bedroom, and maybe it's got a small bath and a small little kitchenette, and you're renting that out as an apartment. You can do that. It's called house hacking. You can do that, and it works very well. Sometimes people rent out a room as an Airbnb, part of their house as an Airbnb. I know several people went to school with a guy that's doing this, doing a fabulous job at it. Amazing. Is it for everybody? No, probably not. But for those that it does work, they do very well. So you have to get creative. You can do it. You can get creative. Now, this is a tough one. So many people at the end of the month, when they balance their checkbook, here's the thing, if they balance their checkbook, I don't know how many people I have seen, you know, writing their check in the memo, and they're putting it in, okay, I wrote a check to Walmart, but they don't balance it out here. And if you look, it hadn't been balanced in months or years. They just put that they wrote a check, no amount, nor do they have an amount as to where they're at. They don't want to know because they're in that bad a shape. And it's kind of like, well, if I know, I may have just overdrawn. You will have overdrawn anyway. You need to know when you're going to overdraw, so you don't. So you will have a good standing. So when you go to get a loan, the bank will say, yes, you're a good loan. If you don't know, you're not going to be a very good loan. Banks are not going to be willing to give you money. Now, your checkbook, each month, if at the end of the month you have $100 left, and then next month you have 105, at least you're saving something. And then the next month you have 120, and then the next month you have 150, because as you go, you're going to find out you get better at saving. The more you discipline, and when you see that bank account, you're starting to get in the black, you're coming out of the red, and you're getting in the black, and now you're excited because I have money. Then you get to 200, then you get to 250, and then 500, and then 750 and 1,000. Now you're starting to see it. This thing works. But you have to get good at saving. And once you start buying property, your equity will build your wealth. So we're going to talk a lot about equity. Very important. It's going to be a great tool that can work for you, but you've got to apply it. You've got to push yourself. You may have to get another job. You may have to work long hours for several years just to get to where you want to go. But you've got to set a goal, and you've got to push hard to get to that goal. But you can do it. You can be Redneck Rich. See you on the next video.